The chillier temperatures of fall make us want to maybe cozy up with a special someone, or maybe cozy up with a good book. If you're torn between the decision about which to cozy up with, our friends at McNally Robinson Booksellers are allowing us to do a bit of both with their October edition of What to Read. Chris Hall joins us once again in the Classic 107 studios with this month's picks. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, Nolan, and I do recommend both simultaneously.
Ooh, okay. Hey, that's a great idea. Why settle when you can have both? So we were just talking a little bit before we went to air here about these selections and picking up on their sort of quasi-romantic, or at least in a few cases, quasi-romantic qualities. And that wasn't something that had necessarily occurred to you, but you have something else in mind for all of these books and the way that they tie into this month.
Yeah, absolutely. It caught me a bit by surprise. You're right. There is romance and relationships in each one, but not what I took away from each one to add all together. So then, you take different things from different books.
Right. Absolutely. But these are also books that are coming out in October. So new titles for us to enjoy, including this first title, the perfect book for this maybe back to college or even starting college season. Heart the Lover by Lily King is the first title on your list.
Yeah, absolutely. King is a real bookseller favorite. There's several people in our store that like her, and for several novels, including Writers and Lovers in 2020, and it's reflected beyond our store because she is on the Booksellers list, that list of books voted by Canada's independent booksellers that I introduced last month. So she is a favorite beyond across the country with booksellers. So Heart the Lover is about a young college senior named Jordan who dreams of becoming a writer, and she meets two fellows named Sam and Yash, and they are best friends and the golden boys of the English department. And they're magnetic, but as graduation approaches, the lines between love and friendship blur. Jordan is caught up in a life-changing triangle. And decades later, we pick up the story. She's in the middle of a thriving writing career. She's a new mother, but she receives unexpected news and brings that present tense all crashing. It's lots of novels kind of have two storylines or two timelines, I guess, that crash into each other in a person's life. I'm ready for anything because of it, because I've read a lot of novels where your past crashes into your future or your present. So
sure.
So this is one of those.
Okay, so what is it when it comes to those independent booksellers that make up the booksellers list? What has caught all of your eyes and imaginations about Lily King's writing over the years, and why is her work something that is recommended by you all?
Well, there's something we've as a group always talked about an indie book. What is the difference between an indie book and a book that appeals widely and in a commercial way? And it's really hard to put your finger on it, but this is definitely one. The booksellers list has been a real illustration that we kind of agree on the kinds of books. It's not a coincidence that I've mentioned it so often in my own picks. These are, I've been kind of pleased to see it. But it's a bit of a mystery, but something about what I use the word literary. I can't really define that specifically either, but something that goes a little deeper than plot, something, character and reflection and things like that. So that's definitely in this Lily King novel.
Yeah, there's something about trying to define something for genre purposes, trying to put something into a specific sort of a box to then try and define it. I mean, we run into this problem with music all the time. It's something that you can't quite put your finger on, but you know that you like it when you read it. It's clearly in the case of Lily King for the case of the booksellers.
And part of the challenge is there's no real line between these things. It's always a range in between. So there's some that are more literary, less,
right.
And we're learning that with all kinds of definitions.
Absolutely. So then we've got another complicated sort of a love story, courtesy of the Irish author Elaine Feeney, Let Me Go Mad in My Own Way.
Yes, love the title.
Yeah, right.
She is an Irish writer. She wrote the Booker longlisted novel called How to Build a Boat in 2023, and that caught a lot of buzz, a lot of our attention. Again, the new novel is on the booksellers list. It involves a promising writer named Claire O'Connor, who has left her family's struggling farmstead in Western Ireland. She's left for London, swearing never to return. But the unexpected death of her mother throws her deeper into grief than she was expecting. And her father is diagnosed with cancer, and she decides to return home to care for him in his final days. And then this is where your observation comes in. Tom, her lost London love, shows up in the next town over. And she has anxieties, she has obsessions, and they all kind of collide, and she's gets really mixed up. But there's levels of resulting conflict from all this. She and her brothers, they've realized they've got to face what happened to them and their immediate family, but then there's this generational trauma in Ireland, as we kind of know, the abuse that goes back generations. And it's something they really have to come to terms with, they realize.
Well, right, and throw in a past flame, shall we call it, who's moved in close, but maybe moved in for like different reasons. It might not be for her, but that can also feel a bit complicated as well. So that's certainly a trick to being able to capture any sort of like stability in a moment like that.
And he's English.
Oh no. Yeah. Goodness. Yeah, that's a lot of twisting right there.
That's right.
So throw in all of those complications, and maybe another element that I could have picked out between these first two titles that we're talking about is that these are both books by writers writing about writers.
Sure. I thought the same thing just as soon as I skimmed over the word promising writer. Yes.
Yes, a very sort of a meta construction. Yes. When you read books like that where these authors are putting their own profession as a trait of this character, do you notice in your explorations of books any sort of other quality that comes from writers writing about, well, what they know quite literally?
Well, when writers, especially, again, literary writers, are reflective, and they are thinking deeply about life and how we experience it. So, yeah, a writer exploring the life of a writer, i.e. a reflective person exploring the life of a reflective person is kind of an opportunity to get pretty deep. So, there's probably a reason why it happens so often.
Right, what you know, I'm sure, is that old axiom that everybody keeps on leaning on to. So, another sort of quasi-romance title in here, the third of our 5 for this month, Big Kiss, Bye-Bye by Claire Louise Bennett.
Yes, exactly. Another spin on that theme. Bennett wrote a novel called Pond years ago now, and followed that up with one called Checkout 19. And I chose that as a what to read, if anyone recalls that. And I will admit that Bennett is not an author for everyone. She is very innovative, very inventive. She doesn't tell the story in a straightforward manner. She kind of feels her way. It's maybe stream of consciousness would be a word that would come to mind, but she really engages in the emotions and the irrationalities as we try to figure out what is happening in our lives, and at that kind of deep level we've been talking about. So if you're in for something different, this is a story of a woman who lives in a kind of temporary limbo. She's visited by memories of things she's left behind, and most of those being past relationships. Some of them love relationships, some of them other kinds. But the most insistent of those relationships is Xavier, who has always been certain he knows her better than anyone. She still loves him. She doesn't really desire him anymore, and he has not been able to accept that. And then another unexpected turn of events, a letter arrives from an old acquaintance, and it kind of opens up something in her. She starts to revisit a lot of people in her memories and in her mind of people who've come into her life and gone from her life. Again, some of them lovers, but some of them just friends, some of them just acquaintances, really. And it really explores what does it mean when people come into our lives and when they leave our lives? What effect do they do? How do they become part of us? How do they become part of our lives and in the way that our pasts become part of our lives. It's
These,
really interesting.
These roles in our lives that just kind of change and they flow. The dynamic between these relationships changes deeper and more shallow, and it goes up and down and sideways and all manner of things. What makes Bennett's writing a bit more of a challenge maybe for those who might be feeling a bit more ambitious in October?
Yeah, well, we just talked about the range, right?
Yes,
And
yeah.
I would say there's a difference between a really commercial novel, which I think of as so much plot, grabs you on the first page, pulls you through what happens next,
Sure.
and whereas the farther in the other extreme you get, it's less about what's happening exactly and more about what a character's thinking, what they imagine is going on sometimes, and so I always feel like it's hard to get your feet on the ground with a novel that's the other extreme, but you can get kind of lost in it and you can still feel it and experience it. But it is a different kind of experience, and yeah, if you're looking for plot, it's not here.
Okay, very good. So more complications when it comes to relationships of all kinds in our fourth title here, Property by Kate Cayley. A whole lot of very of-the-moment conversations that I'm gathering in this book about a wide range of very prescient topics.
Yeah, it is of the day. I'm fairly new, or very new, to Kate Cayley as well, but she has published both fiction and poetry before, and she's on the booksellers list, so clearly other booksellers are ahead of me. This is a novel involving several characters, major and minor, including Nat, a middle-aged mother. She's very worried about her taciturn loner son who locks himself in his room. Her friend Maddie is a failed actress. She's a fellow parent. She has a tendency to fret over all the missed opportunities in her life and the state of her marriage. Next door, there's a young fellow named Ilya. He's a construction worker. He's working on renovating a fixer-upper next door, has his own issues from his own past. There's an old woman across the street looking through the gaps in the curtains. There's a lonely man just wandering around. And it's a novel exploring that neighborhood and those people and those relationships that you're mentioning, stumbling through their own lot of anxieties. It is very current, so there is a lot of current day anxieties to it. It's sure, like a uncertainty about career or professional things, queer belonging in a neighborhood such as that. Raising children.
The isolation of young men, very topical right now. Okay, all those things coming to bear in Property. So 4 fiction titles that we've shared so far. The final one, though, a nonfiction exploration that brings us back here to Canada.
It does, yes. It's called Vanished Beyond the Map, and it is by Adam Schultz. And Adam is the author of many books that follow his own adventures. He goes wandering through a lot of the north of Canada where nobody else would really go. He's written books called Alone Against the North, A History of Canada in 10 Maps, among others. And in his new book, he's looking at the life of an explorer named Hubert Darrell, who in November 1910 vanished into the wilderness of the Northwest Territories. And before that, he had made his name as an expert guide, as a trapper, just a restless wanderer. He ventured in places that few others dared. And among the things that he made his living doing, he rescued sailors and trapped sea ice. He helped Mounties in their patrols, and even guided some of the era's most famous explorers. Roald Amundsen said of him that with a man like him, he could go to the moon. So while his disappearance sparked headlines around the world in 1910, we've never heard of Hubert Darrell, generally speaking. And so he vanished in the history books as well, just as much as he did into the wild. So Schultz uses a trail of letters, journals, hand-drawn maps to retrace Darrell's forgotten routes. He searches for old cabin ruins, old campsites, and the resulting book is part detective story, part biography, but partly Adam's own journeys through this landscape. He's a frequent visitor to our stores. He is coming again Saturday, October 25th. He's fascinating. You should come and just listen to him. And streaming on YouTube, of course, so wherever you are, you can tune in. So looking forward to that.
We'll be sure to link to those live stream opportunities at our website, classic107.com, and the Classic 107 app. Those titles for our October edition of What to Read, once again, Vanished Beyond the Map by Adam Schultz, Property by Kate Cayley, Big Kiss Bye-Bye by Claire Louise Bennett. Let Me Go Mad in My Own Way by Elaine Feeney, I think this month's winner for best title. And Heart's the Lover by Lily King. You can find more information at our website and app later on this morning. Chris Hall of McNally Robinson Booksellers, thanks for setting us up for the October edition of What to Read.
Thanks as always, Noah.